I'm pleased to be joined by Oklahoma coach Brent Venables. Coach, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. It's about that time, so we're doing good.
Well, I'm excited about this time because we're talking about a Big 12 that we've never seen before. 14 teams in the league this year. Your last year as a Big 12 member. What are you looking forward to this season from your Oklahoma Sooners?
Yeah, and historically speaking, again, you're talking to somebody that has had the good fortune to be a part of this league since its inception, transitioning as a player and a coach from the Big 8 to the Big 12 and coaching in the first Big 12 game in the history of the conference. So Texas Tech and Kansas State, Zebby Lethridge, Byron Hanspard, Spike Dykes, the great Spike Dykes. So just, again, as a purist and loyalist, somebody that is about relationships and not having been exposed to, more than just two conferences. It's, I'm really excited for this to be Oklahoma's last season in the conference. At the end of the day, you peel it all back. This is about us being as competitive and as good as we can be, in our last year here. This is a heck of a league, tremendous depth in this league and fantastic coaching and as good of players as there is in college football. And so Oklahoma doesn't sneak up on anybody. So, it presents its challenges, and it's really exciting to have we're going to play 3 of those new 4 teams in the league, and excellent coaches and players, and the history that these programs have as well, whether it's Cincinnati being a playoff team just a couple of years ago, or, have faced BYU a few different times in their career, so understand, what they bring to the table from a maturity standpoint. And Coach Malzahn and I, while he was at both Tulsa and Auburn, have crossed paths many a times.
Well, Coach, I actually want to talk a little bit about those traditions that may or may not be going away. Coach Gundy at Oklahoma State felt pretty sure that this is going to be the last time we see a Bedlam football game. I wonder, would you like to see that game get played while being head coach at Oklahoma after this season?
Yeah, I'll play, coach against whoever they tell us we're going to play. So, again, I love rivalry games. It's, unfortunate that for the time being we won't be playing them, but we'll have enough challenges, on our schedule, and we'll see. But we'll play, who they tell us that we're going to play.
There have been 5 teams that have won 100 games or more over the past decade, right? Alabama, Clemson, we're talking about Georgia. We're also talking about Oklahoma and Alabama, Ohio State. Of those 5 teams, only one of those teams hadn't won a national championship the last decade. Having been a part of a team that won a national championship and is on that list, how close are the Sooners to playing for national titles again?
Yeah, again, I think you got to have a lot of things go your way, from leadership, experience, staying healthy. You got to build it the right way. You don't just luck up and show up into the national championship game. You got to have a lot of good things, go your way. And, so for us, building this thing the right way, obviously you got to have great quarterback play. It starts on those lines of scrimmages. You got to build competitive depth, so you can have the competitive stamina that it requires as well. And you got to have playmakers, on both sides of the ball. So I love what we're doing, with our first several, recruiting classes and, guys that we've brought in from a transfer standpoint, and then how we're developing our current players. I think, there is no question that we're doing this thing the right way. And when that'll happen, we'll see. There's a lot of things that got to take place. We got a lot of improvement to do, though. I can promise you, before we're worried about that. And we got a lot of things that we got to get better at.
This year has been one of transition like last year. It feels like Oklahoma is also getting out of their comfort zone just a little bit. You went into the portal to go fill some needs. I wonder, now that you have had your hands on the program for the better part of 2 years, does it feel much more like your program, or I should say the program that you want the fans to be excited about? And are you getting closer and closer to perhaps being able to build that foundation that you're so interested in building, apart from having to go get guys from all over the country that may or may not have learned how to do it the first time the right way at Oklahoma?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, there's been tremendous turnover 2 years in a row for us. We've got 40 new scholarship players. You got 85 on scholarship. So you're looking at 50% of your roster, give or take, is brand new. We got 63 newcomers. A year ago, we had 47 newcomers. So we got 63 newcomers with scholarship and walk-ons. And, so the lack of stability isn't something. You want continuity, and you want consistency in your roster. We're going to get to that, I believe, after this year. But as you graduate players and, players move on, which is the great thing in college football, I think it creates, exciting opportunities for new guys, and it's a tremendous challenge that everybody where college football is today to have to deal with the same types of instability, and so I love the challenge of it, and for me, I think we have give or take 12, returning starters on paper, which is not a lot, but we have a lot of returning players, and I think the real key to our success is how quickly can we get the newcomers, whether they're freshmen or the 17 transfers that we have coming in, and combined with our walk-ons in our program, how quickly can we get these guys to be cohesive? How quickly can we get them to blend in the right way, learn how we do what we do with the returning players, so that we can again be whole in all three phases of the game. And so that's exciting to me. But I really see, moving forward, we won't, a year from now, we're not going to be talking about having 40 new scholarship players. That's just, I don't see that as happening within our roster. And so that's going to benefit us, developing the team the right way. That third or fourth year player usually plays a little bit better, more confident, more consistent, at a higher, more aggressive, precise, accountable level than the first year player does, the second year player. So this is a developmental game, and we want to be a developmental program. And we really, everybody's going to be affected to some degree by the portal and the ability for the players to move from one program to the next. And we want to build our program out of the high school ranks and meet the needs when we have to, because of graduation, exhausting eligibility, at the right spots, from a portal standpoint. That's never going to go away.
My last one for you, Coach. Have you had to temper not just the expectations, but the enthusiasm from Oklahoma fans who are very excited to be joining the SEC in a year's time? You still got a season of football left to play.
Yeah. Again, listen, when you're at a place like Oklahoma, one of the things that makes Oklahoma so incredibly, special is the passion and the enthusiasm, the hunger from our fan base to be successful. And they have high expectations, and so do we. I can promise you nobody has higher expectations of themselves or of the Oklahoma Sooners than we do inside our locker room. But I welcome that. That's one of the reasons I took this job. And this will be my 15th year in Norman, Oklahoma. And I love this community. I love the past, the tradition, the history, and so do our fans. And so I want to continue to build those expectations and the enthusiasm and the passion that these fans have. That's what makes this place such a special place. And but they're going to be every bit as excited this year, in the Big 12 as much as they will, here in the future in the SEC.
I'm telling you, that scene at Rudy's, I was kind of floored by it. I didn't expect folks to want to show up for such a year in advance, right, in the summer, talk about an SEC schedule, but yet they seem to be all about it and really excited about these games to come and with future of Oklahoma football, yourself included. I got to say, Coach, you're the person that's always pointing out, hey, I've been here before. I know what it's like to win here. I know what it looks like when we're winning here. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there. Oklahoma coach Brent Venables, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Thanks for having me on, RJ. Great to see you.
You too, sir. I'm pleased to be joined by Oklahoma wide receiver Drake Stoops. Drake, how you doing?
I'm doing well, RJ. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk with you because this is the first time I've actually got to sit down and speak with you about much of anything, Drake. And the first question I have for you is, did you think you would be a 6-year senior when you first decided to walk on at Oklahoma?
Yeah, I'd have to say definitely not, considering no one saw the COVID year coming into play for sure. But, when I walked on, I just wanted to do the best with the opportunity that I could. And right now, I thought it would be best for me to come back for this 6th year and continue to pursue that and continue to work at that. And that's why I'm here right now.
You told the OU Daily, which I'm proud to say I used to work at, that, why wouldn't you want to come back and play football one more year at Oklahoma? But I also am very, very interested in the journey that you've taken to get to this point where you're a leader on the football team. And Coach Riley had said at one point, I was probably a little too hard on evaluation with you. And yet you have shown up every time they've asked you to show up. Tell me just a little bit about how you decided that you wanted to walk on at Oklahoma, and then what it felt like for you to become a scholarship player and then a leader on this team.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, and coming out of high school, I had some offers to some other schools, and I just decided that Oklahoma was a place I wanted to be. I felt like I was capable of working hard and earning an opportunity here, and so that's why I decided ultimately to walk on at Oklahoma. And then, as it progressed, I just, worked really hard as a youngster, and that slowly, brick by brick, accumulated. And there's a lot of good fortune in there, whether it's a lucky break and an opportunity presents itself. But I think the work prepared me for that opportunity, and then I slowly worked my way into the offense and started gaining those opportunities and doing my best to capitalize on them. And then, now that I'm older, not by default, but as you get older and you get experienced and you've been through a lot, it's kind of your obligation to your team to start leading them and leading young guys through similar adversity you had went through, and also just being a voice of reason and a voice that leads the way in your team.
Did it break your pops' heart just a little bit to know that you're a wideout and not a safety?
No, not at all. I mean, he supports me either way, but it would have been cool if I could have lined up against him 1 or 2 times as safety.
Who do you think would have won that one?
I'm going to go with me. He played in that old school Big Ten back in the day. They weren't throwing the ball like we do now, so.
Certainly not. Totally different brand of football, but also you are becoming a different football player, right? It's one of the things that I've been very fascinated with is your maturity on the field, but you're also doing it with that name on your back. What does it feel like when you hear fans give a loud Stoops when you make a play?
Yeah, that's been an interesting dynamic as it's grown, and I think it's very cool. And I'm just fortunate they're that excited for me, and I have that much support behind my back. And we have one of the best fan bases in all the country, and that just shows it right there, showing that much support. And the funny thing is, the first time it happened, I thought I was getting booed, and then I realized I wasn't. I just kind of laughed about it after the fact. But I think it's a very cool thing that they've started, and I'll always appreciate it.
It's been an interesting phenomenon to watch because it doesn't always go that way, right? Usually you might get a little bit of a stigma being the son of a legendary head coach in the way that Coach Stoops is, and yet I can't find anybody that is not rooting for you specifically. Do you feel a little bit buoyed by that, if not some pressure to perform?
I don't think anyone could ever put more pressure on me than I put on myself, or have higher expectations than I have for myself. So that doesn't burden me whatsoever. I work very hard, and I expect the most out of myself because of that work. And so no, I wouldn't say the last name or anything like that provides more pressure, but it's definitely an opportunity. And at the end of the day, I appreciate them embracing me for who I am, because I'm always going to be me, and I always see myself as an individual, no matter who my dad is. And so I always appreciate that they're showing me support and they're happy for my success, not only just because my dad used to coach here, but for me just as an individual and the walk it took me to get here.
It dawned on me not too long ago that you have spent basically your life in Norman and being the son of Bob Stoops, that is kind of been interesting to view, right? Because that's your father and everybody else is Coach Stoops. So if you could you tell me a story about what kind of dad Coach Stoops is as opposed to what kind of coach Coach Stoops is?
Oh yeah, this is an easy story. So when we were young kids, I have a twin brother, Isaac, and so my dad used to ask for autographs a lot of times, and so naturally, being a little kid, like my brother, he wanted one too. So like we were at home, and he's like, "Dad, can you sign my hat?" And instead of signing it Bob Stoops like he did everyone else, he just signed it Dad. And my brother walked off happy as all get out because he didn't know any better. But that just shows you, he's Dad to us, and we never really quite understood that whole dynamic until you got older. And now that you're in it, you understand what that means to people, and so it's cool to be able to see both sides.
That is actually perfect, because why would you sign it any other way other than Dad?
Exactly.
Last one for you is that receiving core is getting overhauled, and it looks like you, a couple other guys, are going to be responsible for catching a bunch of passes from Dillon Gabriel. Who are some of the guys on that receiving core that you expect to have big seasons along with yourself?
I expect everyone to contribute. We've had a heck of a spring and a heck of a summer, and I think we're continuing to learn, continuing to grow in our position group. But guys like Jalil Farouk and Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, and Andrew Anthony, who just transferred in, myself, as you said, and then Gavin Freeman, who exploded on the scene last year, and then even Jaquez Petaway coming in as a freshman. And we got Brennan Thompson coming from Texas. I mean, we just have a lot more competitive depth, and I think that'll help us down the stretch of games and down the stretch of a long season. But I mean, we definitely have a lot of guys that are hungry and ready to contribute all across the board.
You could tell DJ Graham that if he makes that kind of play he did a couple years ago, where he snatches the ball out of the air with one hand, that he can just catch that one. Nobody's going to give him any static for making that play on the offensive side of the ball. Still
definitely
one of the most
good to have
fantastic
him too.
catches I've ever seen. Yeah, do you remember that catch?
Yeah. Oh yeah, unbelievable. He's a big body, athletic as all get out, big hands, one hand anything. Yeah, it shows up in practice too.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see it in the game then. Drake Stoops, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
I'm pleased to be joined by Oklahoma quarterback Dillon Gabriel. Dillon, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. Very excited to see you. Very excited to see that you're healthy. Very excited to see that you are ready to play in 2023. Big transition year for Oklahoma, but also a year for which you know what's coming associated with that jersey that you're playing with now. What have you changed about yourself, if anything, from last year going into this 2023 season?
Just been super, focused and crucial about myself and my playing ability, just mentally, physically, emotionally, just as a full circle, just trying to get better in every which way I can. But obviously, the situational football, just putting the emphasis on that when it comes to, my game.
I read that you and Coach Levy watched every single game from last year and then watched it breaking down protections and concepts. What did you learn from that process?
I think I learned a lot, when it comes to when you're watching it, nothing's as good as it seems and nothing's as bad as it seems. So just playing each play individually, trying to get, our O-line in the best protection possible, but then also just taking, the easy access throws as much as I can. And I think just throughout that time of watching it, learned a lot about, just our team and how much better we can be, how much more efficient we can be, and just have seen that a bunch throughout our off season, as we gain confidence through those, camps.
One of the things that you also pointed out is that good football teams on the offensive side don't have themselves in a bunch of 3rd and long situations, and they take great advantage of the 3rd and short situations. Have you made a pivot in the scheme and the game plan to making some of those easier throws and letting your playmakers do what they do best?
Yeah, I think, finding, ways to get our playmakers in space is obviously a big emphasis in general, but also being really good on first and second down so that our third downs are a lot more manageable. So situational football is obviously crucial, but just putting an emphasis in general on helping ourselves out on first and second so that our thirds we can be highly efficient.
Lots of new blood in the program for a second year in a row, but you being a veteran in this program now means that you're one of the guys that's going to have to try to ingratiate the new guys into what the culture is. How difficult or how easy has that been for you to be one of the leaders on that football team that is saying this is how we do it at Oklahoma?
It's been a lot easier, obviously being in year 2 and just having the trust of the guys, and obviously being around each other for a year, getting a lot closer on and off the field has been a big help for me, being vocal, but also just cohesion in general. I think, Coach BV has done a great job of bringing in guys who understand, what we're about, our culture, and buy into, really just pouring into one another. And I think with the combination of our leaders, being able to be vocal and put cohesion at the forefront of what we're about, and then guys coming in and accepting that, it's been really good for us.
What kind of quarterback is Jackson Arnold?
He's a stud, man. He's a stud. He's a great kid, but also just very willing to learn. And I think that's the biggest thing, coming into college is just being able to, be a sponge and learn as much as you can, so that when you have your opportunity, you take advantage of it. So he's definitely that type of guy, and having him in the room can only benefit everyone.
How welcome was the surprise of Gavin Freeman's play for you last year?
Amazing. Something that I've seen him do, in the fall, leading up to that season, but just seeing him do it in person and in a game setting is obviously super, stoked for him. But, a lot of big opportunities for him coming up, and just really blessed to have him again, just getting better and being more confident in the system.
This is Oklahoma's last year in the Big 12. Tell me what it would mean for you to bring Oklahoma back to a Big 12 championship and hopefully win a Big 12 championship this year in their last year in this conference.
Man, it means everything. That's the standard here, and that's what we're about. It's what we expect, which is a great culture to be a part of. And yeah, like I said, that's our goal. That's where we want to be. So, taking the necessary steps, one step at a time, being where our feet are, and, when that time comes, being right in that moment and being excited for it.
Oklahoma quarterback Dillon Gabriel, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Thank you.